every day. I just be styling this hard sleep. See her, she never made it hard for me. See her, I can't trust my eyes. Like, how do I see?
What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to do this 3D camera visualizer effect. I'm going to start by showing you how to create that 3D scene. Then I'm going to show you how to animate a character. Then I'm going to show you how to add minor things that'll spice up your edit. If you want to support me, or if you're passionate about editing, the original project file in which I made my edit will be available in the description for a small fee. You can also download for free all of the assets that I've used in this video. That way you can follow along. Now let's get to the video. What we want to do is create a composition. I'll call it 3D camera scene. Now for this particular look, I'm going to give it a low frame, so 12. Because it really gives it that kind of choppy look. We'll click OK. Now let's create a new solid. We're going to create a new solid. I'll call this background 1080 by 1080 and I'll make it a purple color. Then we're going to create a shape that's going to rotate. So there are two ways to make this. We can either grab the shapes there and choose the star tool. And then when it's like this, you press the up arrow. And then we can have something like this. It's either we can do it like this, it's very precise, or I'll do it in another way because it feels more like organic and raw. You just use the pen tool with G, and then you start doing this star-like shape like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's what gives it that nice look. So now we have this. I'll put the anchor point in the middle, try to align it. We'll put a gradient effect on our layer. And after that, in halftone, I use Sapphire halftone. Then we're gonna make it like this, increase the frequency. Yeah, I'm gonna put it to white because I think it looks nice. And I'm going to add a drop shadow. So layer styles, drop shadow. That looks cool. Then we're gonna create the text. To do most of the text in my edit, I used Procreate on my iPad. But for today's sake, we're gonna use a simple, effective font. I'm gonna use the Punk Kid font. Let's do something like this. And you know how I do it. Layer styles, drop shadow. That looks cool. I'm gonna increase the distance a little bit so that the drop shadow shows even more. Now I'm gonna animate the star, which I'm gonna rename to star. We're gonna go to rotation. You could press R and then Alt, click on the stopwatch. And we're going to do time asterisk 30. So now we get this rotation effect. Now we're going to import our texture right there. We're going to put it underneath everything. When we have our texture imported, I'm going to play with the blending modes. Put it at exclusion. That looks pretty nice. Now we're going to do layer styles and add a stroke. We're going to add a white stroke over our texture. I think we're gonna move our layers a bit to the right there, so that we have space for our artist that's gonna be there. Now we're gonna start creating our 3D environment. That's when the real fun begins, the real sauce. All right, so we're gonna make all of our layers 3D, and then when that's done, we're gonna create a new camera. We can select we can put it at the default settings and then create a null as well. We're going to parent the camera to the null and press P, separate our dimensions. Put it at 3D as well. It's time to add our depth. So we have to change each layer's position so that we get that depth effect. Let's start with the background. We're going to put our background at, let's say 1500, and we press S to scale it back up. For a texture, let's say 400. We're going to scale it back up. Let's do 0 for the star. Let's do -50 for the text. Let's make our background bigger so that when we zoom out, it never goes away. So we're going to start that far at the beginning. We're going to keyframe the Z position of our null, And then let's say at 1 minute time mark, let's go to 0. Let's ease those keyframes with F9 and put our curve like this. Actually, let's do it like this. Yeah. We could make it more intense, more impactful. Let's do the max. Yeah, that's nice. Now we're gonna keep adding our elements. I don't know how to call them, but they're basically lines that go across the whole screen, and it really helps to add that 3D dimension. So we do a line, then we increase the stroke to, let's say, 45. Let's make it red, and then we're gonna add a stroke. Let's make the stroke white and make it size 9. Then we're gonna add a drop shadow. Something like this looks good. I think I'm gonna put it there. So that one, I really want it to be close, very close to the camera. Let's scale that up. I want this one to be very close to the camera. So I'm gonna do minus 8,000, minus 1,000. The less the number is that in the negative, the less big the number is, like if it's in the negatives, like minus 1,000, it's gonna be very close to the camera. And if it's like 1,000 and further, and the number is bigger, it's gonna be further from the camera. You see how it adds that depth? So we're gonna add one like this, actually. Boom. So that it's not there anymore. I'm kind of hesitating. Yeah, we're gonna put it like this. Then we're gonna duplicate our layer. We're gonna make another one much further. Then we can make a couple ones, like duplicate that, rotate that one. I'm gonna put it minus 600. Let's do that. Boom. So guys, I changed ideas. I'm gonna rotate a bit like this so we get more variation with the rotations. Like this I like better. By the way, a little trick, guys. When all of your tabs are open like this, what I do is simply I press S twice and then it just resets. Okay, now to add more depth, we're going to camera options, and we are going to activate the depth of field. Then we're going to increase the aperture. Let's say there's something like this. We're going to try and find the focus. So basically, to find our focus, we're going to go to our last frame right there, and then we want to make that clear. So let's increase that. All right, this is too far. Let's go down. That's pretty clear. We're pretty much there. So when we go back, we get that. It's a pretty clean effect. I really like it. I'll put it at Decagon. I don't know. I like that blur better. So now that that's done, let's add our character. I'll see you guys in Photoshop. So I'm now in Photoshop. We have our picture that we want to isolate. I was thinking we could animate Carti's hand right there. There's a great tool that works pretty much all the time. It selects subject and it actually isolates the character for you. As you can see, it is not perfect because we're missing the boot. We would like the boot to be in there. So I'm going to grab the quick selection tool, or you can press W, but it's right there, quick selection tool. And then you just click and you get the boot in there. Boot up. And if you mess up, you can just press Command Z or Control Z if you're on PC. Also, if you make a line that's bigger like this and you want to remove that, you press Option or Alt. It removes it instead of adding it. Now that it's selected, we're going to create a fusion mask right there, a layer mask. Ta-da! Then let's select this and let's duplicate that. Command C, Command Shift V. If you only do Command V, it puts it like in the middle. It's not where it's supposed to be. So Command C, Command Shift V. Now in this case, we don't need the background. So I'm simply going to delete this. We want to isolate the hand. So that's what we're going to do right now. I saw that the mask is not perfect. So if you see an imperfection like this, you can just grab the lasso tool, do a circle around it, press delete, and it's done. Now let's isolate our hand. Then when that's done, Command C, Command V. Then you should have this. Now that that's done, you want to Command click on the layer, then click on the layer there and do Shift delete, put it to content aware and do OK. And then what that does is it creates a background behind. So that way we're going to be able to move our layer. Now it's not perfect because of the edges. So now we want to clean up the edges. So what I do is I select J, my patching tool, and I select this and then you pick a part where it's dark, like this. Pretty simple, and you can do that pretty fast because it doesn't need to be perfect. And in our case, it's like a dark code, so it's pretty easy to patch up those parts. Now we have our mic. We can call that mic. The background carti. So now, as you can see, we're going to be able to move this without a problem. Now we'll save our Photoshop file, and I'll see you guys back into After Effects. Going to import our Photoshop file. Now let's put this layer in the environment. So first off, you see that first line that we used? Yeah, there. I want it to be just behind there. So it says it's at 200. So I'm going to grab this position, make it 3D first, put it at 200 as well. I'm going to make it much smaller. I'm going to make it -45 instead so that it flips on the other side. Rotate, just minor adjustments. So I think I'm going to make him bigger. Yeah, that's better. Something like this looks nice. I just don't want that part right there, so I'm going to mask him out. Then what I'm going to do, then I'm actually going to animate his hand. So let's go into composition. We have our mic right there. All we got to do is very simple. We grab the anchor point with Y, put it to his elbow, go to rotation. We're going to start at 5 degrees and then let it play for a while. Let's say a minute, do -5, maybe a bit, yeah, a bit more. We're going to ease those, go a bit further, and copy our first keyframe. So now we have this. Now to make this last, one thing you can do is just copy the keyframes, but that takes so much time, so annoying. So we're going to go to there and then I'll click on the stopwatch and then we're going to write the expression loop out. That one. That's it. So now it's just going to loop throughout the whole composition. Let's have a look at what we have. So I think the transition is a bit much. I'm going to adjust this. I'm going to make it and make this very... So that looks better. But I noticed that the depth of field doesn't really catch the character so well. So I'm going to go back to our camera settings, go to camera options, and then try and adjust the focus distance. Now we see it, now it looks much better. You can also zoom in to try and see if it really works. One thing I think I'm going to do is add an explosion behind the star. I'm going to put it 300. The next step is minor adjustments, but it's what really sells the effect. Command A and then pre-comp our composition. Call that 3D scene. Let's create an adjustment layer. So first off, we're going to add some noise. Let's put it at somewhere like 8%. Then I'm going to make another adjustment layer and put some flicker on it. I'm going to use sapphire flicker. Then I'm going to add some texture. Now the most important that I think really sells the effect is to make it wiggle, make it move. So we're going to add a reptile effect, increase that, all of those. And then this, put it to unfold. Now what we're going to do is alt click on the stopwatch of position, wiggle, and let's try 2,10. Now as you can see, there's some like randomized movement, so it just makes it more real. Then let's alt click on the stopwatch right there. Let's make it wiggle 1,3. That is much better. I'm going to add a bit of just scale, up and down scale. Not so much, but just so that it adds a movement. It keeps flowing. Oops guys, I forgot to mention, I also dragged in a clip from the You're the Moon Playboi Carti music video. So we're going to implement that behind our subject. Let's make it 3D. And then I'm going to go to frame blending, pixel motion. If you've watched my last video, then you know. We'll create a mask. Doesn't need to be perfect around their subject. Something like this, just around him. And then we'll increase the feather by quite a lot. Maybe we can go to our mask settings and expand the mask. We want to put it where the texture is. So if we check the position, it's at 400. Then let's put it at 400. You see, we're going to put that there. I'm thinking there, yeah. We're going to put a halftone effect. Increase that by quite a lot. That looks cool. maybe play with the blending modes. To end it off, I'm also gonna add a vignette. Let's go from 0 to there being like this, then make the curves something like this. That looks pretty nice. So that was it for today. As I said earlier, the original project file in which I made my edit will be available to purchase in the description for a small fee. If you enjoyed this video and if it brought you any value, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.